Hey guys, what's happening? So we are back with more Ultimate Spider-Man, and I got a feeling that this issue is setting us up for something crazy. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so coming back, we pick up in April for what initially seems to be just a regular dinner date between Peter and MJ. And really, in some ways you can say that it is, but because of the recent changes in Peter's life, nothing is really regular for him anymore. But not too long after they arrive at this nice restaurant, we find out that the two of them are here to have dinner with Harry Osborn. Which early on, this makes for quite the interesting dynamic, cause like we saw in the previous issue, Harry unmasked Peter just before revealing his identity. So now Harry knows that Peter's Spider-Man, and Peter knows Harry's the Green Goblin. So the whole night, it kind of makes for this situation where it's like, regardless of what's being said, you know what's in the back of their mind. But not long after Harry shows up, he asks Peter if he found the place okay. So Peter tells him yeah, but when he got here, they almost didn't want to let him in. Not until he mentioned Harry's name. Then after this, Peter introduces MJ to Harry. And Harry makes quite the impression early on, cause Harry's just like, yeah, Peter's told me so much about you. Honestly, it's like he won't shut up. The man's obsessed, I think. So in response, MJ's like, well, I hear most people call that being in love. So where from there, she admits how that's a branding issue. But right away, Harry's just like, you're on the job. And he congratulates her on her new business, since recently MJ started a PR firm. So then MJ's like, thanks, if I work hard enough, sometimes I forget how terrified I am. So then Harry's like, well, I hear most people call that being excited. And really it's just Harry matching MJ's wit by quickly returning the same kind of humorous sarcasm that she was serving. So she looks at Peter and she's like, I can see why you like him. So in response, Peter's like, hey, where your wife at? And I mean, it's not to say that Peter's showing any insecurities here, but it is kind of funny how he abruptly just redirected the whole dynamic. But as soon as Harry gets ready to tell them how his wife had some prior business to take care of downtown, she makes her way there. So Harry introduces her by saying, Peter, MJ, this is my wife, Gwen Stacy. And I'm just gonna tell you right now, after seeing this, I can just imagine a number of ways where this could either get messy or turn into a villain arc really quick. But I'm just gonna refrain for the time being, because why would I think what happened on Earth 616 could possibly happen here on Earth 616? Zero. But moments later, after Gwen joins them, they sit down, they enjoy their meal, they conversate, and at one point, Peter and MJ are like they haven't been out on a date since before the kids. So with the topic coming up, MJ asks if Harry and Gwen got any kids. So Gwen tells them she'd like to think that she'd be a good mother, but no kids yet, though her and Harry are considering it. So next, Peter's more or less like it's the best thing ever, so what's the holdup? And right there, I'm just kind of like, ugh, you don't ask somebody you just met that question, because you never know what the reason is and you don't want to make it weird. But Harry ends up telling them the reason why they don't have children now is because of the world that they would bring them into. And even though it's a short answer that they get from Harry here, we know exactly what he's talking about. But either way, MJ, she doesn't pry. She just goes on to ask other things to get to know them better, like how long have they been together? So Harry's like, who can say? Hard to keep track when every day's been a dream. Where on the flip side, Gwen's like, it's been 8 years, 3 months, 11 days, 2 leap years. Like she knows exactly how long it's been. But right here, Harry turns things around and he starts asking MJ the questions, cause he's just like, enough about us, MJ, spill it. We all know what Peter's up to. Let us hear about how your business is going. Which from here has Gwen curious to know, so Peter tells her. MJ started a PR firm. So Gwen goes on to ask, how did MJ get into it? So MJ tells her that she used to model for a little bit, and during the time that she did, she handled her own branding. People liked it, word got around, and eventually she was picked up by Bayhem LaRoche. So she worked there for a little while until she was poached by Altman Smith. And as soon as Gwen hears that name, Altman Smith, she's like, oh yeah, I think Harry's dad used them a few times. Which right here has MJ like, well, that's a polite way to describe a crisis management firm. Cause when she worked there, things started great. Like, hey, you can pick your own clients. But after some time, things shifted to where they then just told her to make certain problems go away. And she didn't like that, so off she went. So following this, Harry's like, okay, good for you. So who you got now, client-wise? So MJ tells him right now she's on retainer at Damage Control. And aside from that, it's a number of one-offs, except one other thing. But before she goes on to say what it is, she looks to Peter and she's like, is it okay to talk about this? So Peter's just like, sure, why not? So it's here where MJ tells Harry and Gwen that she's helping out Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson with their own news outfit, and they just settled on a name. So right here, we head over to Uncle Ben and J. Jonah Jameson, since Uncle Ben is babysitting both Richard and May, and we find at this time that Jameson, he really just came through to argue about the name MJ gave their outlet, with her calling it The Paper. And for a moment, he's like, it doesn't make sense because it's all going to be online with no physical prints. But not after long, he admits that he's just being a fuss about it because it actually sounds clever. And Ben likes it because he feels like it'll connect with their target audience, which is like your everyday person. And Jameson just likes they're not going with any kind of funny spelling, just so they can try to be cool. But it's not even too long before May just jumps in, and she's like, Uncle Ben, is he gonna be leaving soon? Cause she doesn't really care for Jameson, and she's a kid, so she's not even trying to hide it. And with us going back and forth here for a little bit, we go back to MJ and Peter, where now, after sharing the name with Harry and Gwen, Harry's just like, oh, The Paper, yeah, that sounds great. And he makes a bit of a sarcastic remark, more or less like, oh yeah, just what we need, more news. So Gwen calls him out, telling Harry that he's being rude, but he assures them that he's just joking. But on a more serious note, Harry tells them that he just doesn't think that this is the right market for it, and not because it's too competitive, but because it's a closed system. Which again is just another moment where Harry is talking about what he believes they really should be focused on, without him directly saying what that is just yet. Though on the other hand, Gwen, she's optimistic about how this whole endeavor could be useful. So MJ tells her to go on. And Gwen's like, for starters, they can use the pictures that Peter's been taking of that masked man swinging through the sky. And she gives Peter a compliment as far as the pictures, telling him, killer eye, by the way. And Peter's just like, well, I just point and shoot, it's nothing. Like, it's kind of funny how he's trying to downplay it. So MJ leans in and she's just like, well, he means thank you. And Gwen just goes on to point out what we knew from the beginning, which was more so emphasized in issue 2, as far as the bugle not focusing on the guy swinging around, but it's almost as if they're intentionally talking around it. So she tells them, focusing on that guy, that'll make it more impactful. If someone talked about the things that the bugle is missing, like the reason that this guy's even out there, because there's got to be some sort of point, there's got to be some kind of purpose, whether that be good or bad. But she goes on to say that she doesn't think that he's bad. Though she also understands if he's good, then that's going to upset some people, because that would imply that something's wrong with the world. And maybe that's what we're looking for, a cure for what ails us. And really, with Gwen laying all this on them, Peter's just like, well, you've been thinking about this quite a bit, haven't you? So she tells him, people need heroes, Peter, and if your uncle's going to report on that, good for him. Maybe you could let them use some of your photos. Which now has Peter like, well, I work for the Bugle. So Gwen tells him, and you always will, with an attitude like that. And right here, Peter just gives Harry this look, like, Harry, you better get your girl before I web shoot her mouth shut. Like, he just got that look on his face like, man, she tried me. So Harry tells Gwen to go easy on him, but he then tells Peter that she's not wrong. So just after this, Gwen, she goes to the ladies' room, and MJ follows right after. And after this, we head back over to Uncle Ben, where now little May, she's fast asleep. So Richard and Ben have a bit of a talk for a moment here, because Richard tells Ben that May, she doesn't really like Mr. Jameson, but he goes on to tell him that he really likes what they're doing. And Ben knows that part of that has to do with the fact that Richard just likes to read a lot. And Richard's like, everybody should read a lot. And Ben tells him, sure, but you gotta give them a reason to, which can be a little tricky. So right here he tells Richard, you got a half hour before you go to bed, want to watch some TV? And Richard tells him no. So Uncle Ben's like, good man. So from here we head back over to MJ and Gwen, in the ladies' room having a bit of a chat. But right here, Gwen ends up asking MJ if she feels like she's coming on too strong, because at times Gwen finds it hard to turn the corporate thing off, and to add to it, when she's got an opinion, she's got to let it be known. So MJ tells her she's good. So Gwen's like, great, because I was hoping to ask you a favor. Which again, much like earlier, this feels like something Gwen has thought about. Because right here, she ends up telling MJ, you probably know this, but if you didn't, Oscorp took over Stain Stark a few months ago. Since then, we scaled up in some unexpected ways. To be blunt, we have too much money. And now I need to get some off the books. But I've exhausted all the normal charities, donations, and various nonprofits, and tonight's conversation got me thinking of you. So right here, just going off of the way that this sounds, MJ's just like, wait, what? No way. Like, her and Peter are not about to embezzle some crazy amount of money. But Gwen just tells her like, no, that's not what I mean, because that would be weird, right? And MJ's just like, yeah. And for a moment here, there's an awkward pause before MJ asks Gwen, what exactly does she mean? So Gwen tells her that she was hoping that she can invest some money into the paper, because she's kind of in the mood to see if she can launch a pirate ship, which, I don't know, sounds a little bit too good to be true. Because to me, it just seems like this Gwen Stacy we're being introduced to. She might be more calculated than we're led to believe. But either way, right here we go back to Harry and Peter, where now that it's just the two of them, they're finally given the chance to have a very direct conversation. Because Harry just outright points at Peter and says, you haven't told her yet, have you? And Peter's like, no. And then he's like, wait, you told Gwen? And Harry tells him, yeah. So Peter asks him, like, how much did you tell her? And Harry says that he told Gwen everything, because he loves his wife and there's no secrets between them. So he asks Peter again, like, are you really saying that you haven't told anyone? And Peter's just like, my kid caught me in my costume. And right there, Harry's just like, thank God. Because for a moment he thought that Peter was going to give him this whole speech about the importance of keeping secrets. But even though Peter doesn't ramble on about it, he still tells Harry that it is important. And it's not because he doesn't trust MJ, but it's more like he's trying to protect the ones he cares about. So Harry ends up telling him, you seriously think you can live this life and insulate the people you love from the consequences? And Peter's just like, I don't even know for sure that I want to do this, whatever this is. And Harry tells him, I've seen you in action, pal. Yeah, you do. And if I'm brave enough to do it, you sure should be. And Harry even tells him the reason why he says it like this is because he's just a guy in a suit, while Peter, on the other hand, his abilities make him a lot more than that. And aside from that, it's really just on the two of them to save the world, which now has Peter like, whew. And he tells Harry, for a second there, I thought you were gonna lay something heavy on me. Which, you know, clearly is a bit of sarcasm there. Because for Peter, the way that he sees it, this is the first time in his life that he's doing something that he's really good at. Which right now is just stopping bad people from doing bad things. And Peter just wants to keep it at that. Keep it small and keep it simple. So from here, Harry ends up saying, I'm not gonna tell you what you have to do, Peter, or how to do it. It's not my place, it's not my call. You have to decide that. Nobody's forcing you to come along for the ride. But you need to understand where this is headed and what we're up against. These people, they're playing God, and they're playing for keeps. And worse than that, they've been doing it our whole lives. It's institutional, it's systemic, it's the whole damn world. And you have great power, Peter. And with great power comes great responsibility. It's such a gift, but only if you use it. And this right here is us getting the iconic phrase. Though again, it really feels like issue 4 is just one of those Jonathan Hickman sleepers, where it seems like he's doing just a run-of-the-mill issue, only for you to find out later on down the line that there are a number of moments and quotes from this issue specifically that are gonna eventually come back in a huge way. But nonetheless, after this date night, if you will, we find Peter and MJ making their way back home, and along the way Peter's like, so what'd you think? And it takes a moment for the two of them to get it out, because at first MJ was like, they were nice, kind of. Actually, they were a little, and Peter's like, scary? And that right there just opens it up. But even though they're not even sure at the moment what exactly that was, MJ's just like, yeah, it was a mixture of too personal, too intense, but with great food. So Peter asks MJ, what does she think about what they were saying? As far as the world needing heroes, so she tells him, what do I need heroes for, Peter? I've got you. And so here's the thing, I'm just gonna say this one time, because I can't help but to feel like, after going through this issue, for some reason it just feels like we're being set up for some type of disaster down the line, which will ultimately, and I mean no pun intended, but whatever it is that's coming, it feels like we're getting drawn deeper into these characters, just to have something crazy go on down the line. So for right now, keeping an eye on MJ, Gwen Stacy, and Richard, because something's gonna pop off at some point to make Peter and Harry enemies. But until then, let me know in the comments what you think that just might be. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/DopeSpill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.